The Green River Killer, the story of Gary Ridgway. It began in the early 1980s along the Green River in Washington state. A series of grisly discoveries would unveil one of the most terrifying serial killers in American history. This is the story of Gary Ridgway, the man who would become known as the Green River Killer. July 15, 1982. The body of a young woman was found floating in the Green River. Within weeks, 4 more victims were discovered in the same area, all women, all brutally murdered. Police quickly realized they were dealing with a serial killer. But who was he? And why was he targeting vulnerable women, many of whom were sex workers or runaways? Gary Ridgway lured his victims by pretending to be a kind stranger. He offered them rides, gained their trust, and then struck. Most of his murders occurred in isolated areas where he strangled his victims and left their bodies to decompose near the river. The Green River Killer evaded capture for decades, and his body count continued to rise. By the late 1980s, police believed he had killed more than 40 women. With each new victim, fear gripped the Seattle area. Investigators followed countless leads, but the killer remained a ghost. In 1984, police turned to controversial techniques like hypnosis and even consulted with another infamous serial killer, Ted Bundy, for insights. Bundy suggested the killer might revisit the bodies of his victims, and this tip led police to stake out dump sites. But still, Ridgway eluded them. For nearly 20 years, the case remained unsolved. Then, in 2001, a breakthrough came with the advancement of DNA technology. Evidence collected from victims in the 1980s was re-examined, and it pointed to one man, Gary Ridgway. Ridgway, a quiet, unassuming truck painter, was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Ridgway confessed to killing 48 women, though he claimed the number was closer to 70. His lack of remorse shocked everyone. He admitted he targeted women he thought wouldn't be missed, viewing their lives as disposable. During his trial, Ridgway apologized, but his words brought little comfort to the grieving families who had suffered for decades. Gary Ridgway avoided the death penalty by cooperating with investigators to locate more remains. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Today, he is incarcerated in Washington state, where he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Ridgway's story is a chilling reminder of how darkness can lurk in the most ordinary of people. His crimes left a permanent scar on the Seattle area and a legacy of fear that will never be forgotten. Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, may be behind bars, but the memories of his heinous acts remain. Let this story honor the victims and remind us to never forget their lives.